Charlie, take off those glasses. We're doing a TV commercial.
But Jerry, the future's so bright here at Bourbon RV, I gotta wear shades.
That's right. At Bourbon RV, we have more inventory, more parts, and even better service.
We make buying fun at Bourbon RV.
And if you have a problem, see the boss.
Hello, I'm James Bartle from the Sullivan Independent News, and we are coming to you from the showroom of Jerry's TV Furniture and Appliance, one of the largest showrooms in the area. And we want to welcome you to 5 Questions With. And joining us today on 5 Questions With is a local author, Paul Alexander. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Now, Paul, I understand that you've completed your second book. It's been published, and can you tell us a little bit about the second book and the first book as well?
Sure. My second book, published, it's just been out 10 days, is Elizabeth's Secrets. And although both of my books are fiction, and I would consider both to be revenge thrillers, they are two completely different stories. Elizabeth's Secrets is written from the perspective of the lead character, who is Elizabeth McKenna, and she tells her story in first person, which is it's a very different way of writing from Dark Star and the third person format in which many books are written. Elizabeth McKenna has experienced an incredible loss in her life. The first line of the book is, "I was 43 when the love of my life died at my hand." And that's the way she starts her journal. And it's all about the fact that she, after all of those years, she had reconnected with someone she fell in love with in college. And they were together and had been together for 8 years when in their airplane, their engine exploded, and she was flying the airplane when they crashed on the beach, and 30 days later he died in the hospital. She blamed herself for his death and set about trying to find some emotional balance in her life. To make matters worse, she was dealing with her ex-husband, who was in many ways unkind to her. And so in order to reestablish her emotional strength or emotional well-being, she purchased an antique monoplane that at one time had belonged to her father, and it was the very same plane that she had learned to fly in as a young girl. She sold it on her 16th birthday in this airplane. She bought it from the owner in Florida, and she flew to Florida. This was some 6 months after the love of her life, Ted, died. She flew to Florida, she picked up this airplane, and she began flying the airplane across the continent en route to Los Angeles. Well, along the way, she discovered that she was being pursued, and it was pretty obvious pretty fast that it was her ex-husband who was out to get his revenge. So as she's struggling to find her emotional balance and meeting people and getting their help in really beginning to understand herself, she's also running away from a past difficult relationship and her past. And the book's title, Elizabeth's Secrets, is about the fact that her secrets are those things that many of us might consider to be unimportant, that she shares with someone in confidence, and the first thing you know, and this has happened to all of us, someone is telling something that she thought was a complete secret. I'm only going to tell this to you. Don't tell anybody else. And the first thing you know, they're telling it and they're using it to hurt her. So she begins to not trust people. And then the big secret of her life that only 2 other people besides her ever knew, and one of those 2 people is now dead, is something that she really has to grapple with, and something that in the end she has to share with others. She has to let down her guard and share it with others so that she can find that emotional balance. And I think that the interaction of characters as she crosses the country is really, really special, because the couple that she buys the airplane from in Florida, she has a special relationship with them. The woman has had a similar experience with a previous marriage, and so they relate. And then she gets caught in bad weather, and she lands at a church in Mississippi, and she has a lot of conversations with a minister who really brings additional insight into the way she feels and the things that she's dealing with. And then in Arizona, she meets 2 people that have a staggering effect on the way she sees her past and her present and her future, and it's almost mystical, I think. And finally, when she gets to the West Coast, and of course she has to confront all that she has lived through and all that faces her, because that's the only way that she can bring herself to emotional stability.
Doing the second novel, did you find that it was the writing came a little easier after the first novel, or did it was it a little more difficult to complete the second novel?
It's a funny answer because it's a little difficult to understand. Actually, I wrote Elizabeth's Secrets first, and then I wrote Dark Star. For whatever reason, I decided to edit and modify and publish Dark Star first, and then to go back and finish Elizabeth's Secrets. And I guess the process in some ways is easier because it's something of a practiced art, a highly practiced art, and so I have a better feeling for the sentence structure that makes a difference to me, that I find significant in my writing. A friend of mine who's also an author said that even though the books are two completely different stories, Dark Star being a dark revenge thriller with a lot of devious characters in it, even though the stories are two completely different stories, that it's evident that they were written by Paul Alexander, and I think that's very cool because it's my voice. So when I finished Dark Star and published it and it was doing well, and I decided to edit and to rewrite Elizabeth's Secrets, I went about the process and I kept the characters and the primary characters. I added a few. I kept their personality traits, but the manuscript, when I began this process of rewriting it, was 56,000 words. The first thing I did was throw away 40,000 of those 56,000 words. And I took the other 16,000, completely reformed them, resmithed them, and then I built the story in a completely different way, keeping those characters. When I was finished, it went up and down. Once I got close to 100,000 words, but by the time I finished, it was 79,000 words, which is where it remains today.
Terrific. Now, if people want to purchase the book, how can they go about that locally? Or if they're viewing this from an area not in Sullivan, where can they purchase the book at?
From anywhere in the world. They can, of course, purchase the books online. Both Dark Star and Elizabeth's Secrets are available from Amazon Books, Amazon.com and books, or for the Kindle, or from Barnes & Noble for their Nook, or also as paperback. Then with a personal computer or any variety of e-reader, whether it be Kindle or Kindle Fire, whatever it is, you can download all those things from Amazon. And that's worldwide. Sales have been, actually in the first 10 days since our launch, sales in the United Kingdom have been good, and so we're listed for sale in Germany and France and Italy and Spain and all over the world. So it's a really powerful thing that anyone can go on. They can just put in my name and Elizabeth's Secrets in the search engine for any site, and it pops right up. They can go to my website, link to all of those different outlets for the book. Locally, some local merchants in Sullivan have been very, very kind to me, and they keep my books in their stores, even though they aren't necessarily bookstores. Do Come In sells my books. B&B, the ZX station on the South Service Road, sells my books. The Pit Stop, the liquor store on the South Service Road, sells my books. And also they're available at the Hoot Owl, and of course there's a copy at the Sullivan Public Library.
Terrific. Now, for our viewers, they may who've known you in the Sullivan area, they may be asking themselves or want to know what made you decide to get into writing novels.
Well, if they find the answer to that, I'd like to know. I liked writing from a very, very early age. When I was a young man or young boy, actually, I wrote short stories, and I continued writing short stories until one day one of them began to grow into something that was a whole lot bigger than a short story, and little by little, it became a novel. It just so happened that during that time I was working out of the country, so I had a lot of time by myself and a lot of time for introspection, and spent that time working on my book and building characters and actually honing what is truly a craft, to be able to write a book. You know, a lot of people say, oh gosh, I really want to write a book. Well, you know, it's a lot of work.
Tremendous amount of work. Now, are there plans to do a follow-up, a third novel? Do you have that in you? Do you already got that in the works at this point?
Oh, yeah. Dark Star has something of, it's not exactly a cliffhanger, but it's an ending that could go beyond the ending. And so I'm well into the work of writing the sequel to Dark Star, which is, as of today, I call it Deacon's Ride. We'll see what the characters dictate as far as whether that remains the title or not. And I'm really excited about it because when I get these story ideas in like a flash, and I see them from beginning through end, and so I know basically what's going to happen. But then as I flesh them out and begin the actual writing, the characters take on their own voice and their own personalities. And out of this story that I had conceived, there was one character that grew into two, and I like these two characters so much. I don't know what to do with them other than maybe there'll be a third book and it'll be about these two characters, because I'm really excited about them. And in some way, I don't want to focus on writing all those other characters because I'm too excited about the two.
That's terrific. Well, once again, I want to thank Paul Alexander, local author, for joining us on 5 Questions With. We also want to thank Jerry's TV Furniture and Appliance for allowing us to host the program in their wonderful showroom, so stop by today. 5 Questions With will appear each week at www.mysullivannews.com.